everyone, welcome to part 3 of Mapping a Fantasy World series! Yay! In the last video, we dealt with landmarks. We started off with mountains, and in this video, we will be doing the second largest landmarks, which are forests. Now, before we begin, I'd like to note two things, but first of all, for you fellow forest lovers, who wants your world to be absolutely full of forests and trees, you might be thinking, I just want my world to be basically full of forests, so I'm just going to draw like squiggly edge masses, and inside that is where there are no trees or forests, and then the rest of the blank space is all trees or forests. I have done this in the past, but I have found out sort of the hard way that that's actually not the best way to do things, because when you want to put things inside the valleys or plains or wherever the areas are that you didn't draw your forests or trees, there's limited space to do that, and it makes everything very smushed and constricted. So basically what you want to do is you just want to draw the big forests wherever you want to put them. Now I know that might sound like the exact opposite of what you want to do, but if you'll note with fantasy maps like Middle-earth, you'll see that Tolkien drew in his big forest, and most of the rest of the area he left blank. But that doesn't mean that those areas that he drew were the only treed or forested areas in Middle-earth. If you want, you can draw your big forest and then scatter around some trees to sort of mark the areas where there are still trees. But just because you didn't draw a forest in a certain area doesn't mean that there aren't any trees there. So just keep that in mind. And also, just like with mountains, there are several different ways to draw forests. One way, which is actually pretty popular, is the individual tree method. And you can get really personal with this. As you can see, you can draw all kinds of different trees, and you make it denser in some areas and thinner in some areas. Or you could use the tree canopy method, where basically your entire forest is this squiggly mass with trunks at the edge, and you also want to add at least a few squiggles in the center to make it look less like a numerously legged table, basically. So for this video, I decided I want to do the tree canopy method for my big forest, and then I'm going to scatter around some plain trees here and there because I am a very big forest and tree lover. So I'm going to continue to mark my tree areas with some trees scattered here and there, but I'm not going to overdo it. So, and before you begin, you could use the visual method for this if you want, or you could just plain mark where you want your forests to generally be. And so let's get started. I use little X's, very lightly drawn, to mark where I want to have my forest. And you can use anything, you could use little dots or whatever. So I'll draw the big forest in. And once you're done drawing your forest, you could immediately label them. You could also do this with your mountain ranges, but I am saving that for the end of the series when we get to naming things. So I want this forest to go kind of into that curved mountains. So yeah, this one is pretty big, but it's fine. Fine. We're so big. you'll probably notice that I outlined the mountains in ink so that you can see them better. This is just basically what I'm going to be doing throughout this entire series. First drawing something and then outlining it in ink before the next video, so that when I give you an overview of the map, then you can see how the areas took shape better than with just pencil. Lots of little trunks on the edges. And then, like I said, I'm going to be drawing some sparsely scattered trees here and there throughout the wilderness areas that are in huge forests, but are still trees. Forests are just so majestic and mysteriously beautiful. They just have such an appeal to them. Love them. And especially if you have creatures like elves in your world, you'll probably want to have pretty big forest areas to accommodate them. Elves generally tend to be placed in woods. Of course, you don't have to. I mean, if you want to create like a whole new race of elves or anything, and by all means branch out into something unique. No, I wanted to go downward more. There. Yeah, that's good. Trunks. Of course, as you're doing all of these landmarks that we've been going over, like I said, if you want to name them right after you draw them, by all means go ahead. In order to do that well, though, you should start thinking about what kind of creatures and races and people that you're going to have in your world. Basically, what your world is going to be like overall. Because that will influence how the names of your places sound. So keep that in mind as we go through this series together. I think I mentioned that in my last video. Just a little reminder. With the mountain ranges, I did make some changes from the last video. I made the smallest mountains very, very teeny tiny, because when I stepped back to look at my mountains, I realized that they were making the world look a lot smaller than I wanted them to be with how big I had originally drawn them. So I drew them a lot smaller, and then my world ended up looking a lot better. And I also thinned some of the mountains. Ranges also for the same purpose. I like big worlds. Big fantasy worlds are awesome. There's just so much to explore. I'm not saying that you have to make your world big. You can make it whatever size you want. It's your world. And with the tree canopy method, I forgot to mention, with the areas that sort of go straight up your map, you don't have to draw those trunks in. Just basically on the bottom edge. And you do want to add trunks because otherwise it will end up looking like a lake or sea or something like that. So, just something to keep in mind. This one traces the coast pretty closely. And also up here. It's really cool. Since along with my mountain ranges, I have this going off of the map. It's sort of a mystical feel. Even with using the tree canopy method, my forests are coming out pretty big. Hello! Like that. For those of you who are wondering, I may very well end up writing and working with this someday. Perhaps. I don't know, but I'm definitely not just gonna toss it on the shelf once this series is over. Because like I said in my first video, when you make your world, you should make sure that you like it. And I really do like this. So here is another world to add to my growing collection. Yeah, okay. And then just some little scattered trees here and there to mark that the forests are not the only trees. I do want a bit more visual reference. Just some here. And up here on this cluster of 4 mountains that I drew. There. And yeah, that looks good. Let me change the later, but yeah, that looks good. Definitely the forests are good. Okay, so now give you an overview of what that looks like. Up here, and that is what it looks like. See, I have some going up there, big one there, small one there, big one there, and a really jagged one there. So that is it for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And stay tuned for part 4, where we will begin to draw bodies of water, such as lakes
And